Okay, thanks, Zach. Call the Lee County Finance Committee meeting to order on Thursday, December 10th. We'll do a roll call to see who's here. Arlen McLean, Doug Farster,
here.
Rick Humphrey,
Here.
Tom Kitson,
Present.
Liram Mimini, Jim Sheeline,
Here.
you there yet, Liram? Okay, everybody had a chance to look at the minutes. Any additions or corrections to those minutes? They'll stand approved as read. Visitors, we have Paula Meyer, the treasurer, Marilyn Shippert, Mike Copine, Dave Bowers, and I believe Amy Johnson's here, but she stepped out. Charlie Boonstra is here also. Anybody that needs to leave early? Okay. I just wanted to, I see some members of the previous finance committee are here on this committee. I just, real quick, I just wanted to thank that previous committee and on the work that they did, tireless work with Paula and Bob Olson to put together what looks like a very, very nice looking upcoming year. So to get that over with. At this time, Paula, if you would want to give your the monthly report. Yeah, I think we do. There's one right by Arlen. Yeah.
Okay. Can I leave this off? I'm far enough from you guys, right? Okay. I brought a stack of paper. I also emailed this to you. So for Jim and Liram who are online, I don't know if you can bring up your email, but you do have these documents in your email. So the first thing I'm just going to talk about quickly is you all got the new budget booklet. So this is the new year that just started. So you have that in a booklet form. I'll get more printed up for the rest of the board, but that's for future reference. Also included with that is, it says, there's two things actually that say capital plan at the top, but over here to the side, you can see that it's FY21 or FY20. So there's one that says FY21. That is the capital budget, and it's the particular items that the budget, the finance committee went through over budget time frame and put into the capital. Christmas music. Anyway. So that's for the year coming up. This is what was approved during the budget process. Obviously that can be changed because in reality, there was only so much, these things are lumped together in the budget. So there's an amount for building improvements, an amount for equipment, and an amount for vehicles. So if you switch this up, you can switch it up whatever you want to do this year, but this is just what the first thought was. So I wanted you to have that for future reference. So that's all we're going to say about those. So we are live on our new accounting system with the exception of payroll. So we did a lot of training last week. The reports that I'm going to give you today on last year are actually off of the new system. I stayed last night and wrote some new reports because it's way cool reporting compared to the old system, which was crummy. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is this revenue and expenses compared to budget. It's this one that goes up and down, it says revenue and expenses compared to budget. So this is the general fund as of the end of this last year. So if you come down, the first column is the actual, and I have broken it down, revenues, the major revenue sources, property taxes, sales tax, income tax, so on and so forth. Then expenses. This particular report is broken down kind of by department for expenses. Then there's a column for the budget that was for last year, and then a difference, a dollar difference and a percent difference from the budget. I didn't try to pull the prior year in there because we did roll that prior year information into the new system, but I'm not sure it's super clean because some of the account numbers changed, and anyway. But the point I wanted to make is down here at the bottom, net income is 522,000 to the good in the general fund this year. That is probably going to change a little bit as we go through the audit. We'll have a few tweaks. I think the tweaks will be in the small thousands of dollars. So in general, you're 525,000-ish to the good for the year. And down at the bottom of this report, I broke down, so up towards the top, it says beginning fund balance. We started with 3.6 million in that fund. We're going to add the 522, we're going to end with 4.1 million in that fund for the end of the year. Below that, I broke down how that fund balance is made up. We have 3.1 in cash, and then we have $950,000 that's a receivable from the public safety fund. That was the amount that we loaned to the public safety fund. From this fund, there's 3 loans that went to the public safety fund so that we could finish building the jail. So that's kind of the explanation of this form. So pretty good news for the end of the year. Now, of course, the reason that we are that high is zoning fees. Otherwise you'd be, but also to get to this 522, we did not transfer anything from the capital fund. In the past, we've had to transfer from the capital fund to make ends meet. We didn't have to do that this year. So that 522 is to the good without even taking anything from capital. So good news.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so how much was the total zoning fees? Because that 2,307,000 that would include the road work that was done in transportation on the windmills.
Oh, no, that's actually, no, that's in the highway fund. So this is only the general fund.
This is only the general fund. Okay, thank you.
But as I recall, we got about $1 million. In the end, by the time we got to the end of the year, we were almost to $1 million in zoning fees from this and that and everything else. It was pretty close to $1 million.
Okay, so regardless, the good news is that we made no transfers, and with the zoning fund income, we end up with a net gain of 522,000. That's really good. That's great.
Yeah.
And I also like the way these reports. I look through these reports, and this is really nice. It is really clean. I don't know if way cool is a technical accounting term, but I like it.
It is for me, Jim.
And the one thing that's really great about this with the 522, that includes 1.1 million for a capital plan into that. But am I correct? Somewhat?
Yes and no. So
okay.
The capital fund is a separate fund.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So the capital fund is on this. Okay, so they both say capital plan at the top, but this one says FY20 instead of FY21 over the columns. So we're gonna talk about that one next. Good segue, Jim. Thank you.
Before you get to that though,
yeah.
Up in the top in your budget, you have fees and fines. How much of the whatever it was in fees that came in was actually budgeted? Is that?
I want to say we budgeted like 575.
So there's an extra 500,000.
Yeah, most of 400.
Basically what
yeah. Yes. Most of 400,000 more than what was budgeted. Yeah. So,
If all the big articles. There's a big article today in the paper about the potential tax benefits of the new solar farm or no wind farm. And we know in next year's budget, if everything happened or didn't happen, how much zoning fees or new fees we'd have. We've got a projection on that for the year we're in now.
Well, I believe the fees are at the beginning, and we've already, got those.
But on
So
our
the
budget-
potential for the income there is just going to be the taxes, I believe, from that point on. Am I right, Paula?
right, we don't have anything built in for any
So-
taxes on the solar farm going
So-
forward at this point.
If it hasn't happened, it's not in.
It's not in there.
That's
Okay, so the capital page that says FY20 at the top. So this is what happened with the capital fund this last year. So we started the capital fund up at the top. It says beginning fund balance. We started with 3.9 million. We used 562,000. So we have 3.3 million in the capital fund. So next year we are budgeting to 1.1. So out of that 3.3, we're going to end up at the end of the next year. If we spend all of these dollars, we'll have 2.2 million left in the capital fund. So, yeah. Now, you could take some of the surplus from the general fund and move it over to the capital fund to hold it in reserve. Since we had a surplus this year, it may be a good idea to move it over to the capital fund, which is somewhat your savings account.
Well, typically, if we're above board on our budget, that money should go into a rainy day capital fund project and be there and just be at the net zero for the year.
And also
I
too,
can
we'd
do
be able to use it from there, correct?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
rather
So-
if it wasn't, if we didn't move it over, we wouldn't be able to use that. Is that right? Or-
Well, you can approve a deficit budget that would use up an accrued reserve or accrued fund balance like this. You could approve that. What you can't do is partway through the year, create a deficit budget that wasn't already in a deficit. You can't take, so if you do a budget at zero, you can't make a change and decide to spend more money that's going to now give you a negative $100,000 fund balance or a negative, or you can't go negative once you've already, but in your initial budget, you actually can set up that would draw from your fund balance.
So for you to move that, do you need a motion or can you just do that?
I mean, I can just do it. I don't know if I need a motion or not, honestly.
That's why I'm asking.
And can you do that if it wasn't already on the agenda?
It's
Well,
some,
it's under your treasurer's report and stuff, so you're reporting to.
Charlie says,
Oh.
not on the agenda, I guess we can't.
No, was that a no, Charlie?
he popped it.
We can do it next time.
We could next month.
We can do it in January.
Well, I'm just saying is, but you also said that there might be some adjustments made due to, so you don't want to probably take out zero per se. but-
Right.
So
Right.
at some point
And-
in time, you need to move the majority of it.
Right. Well, and we could write it that anything extra by the time we're done with the auditors will be here in January, end of January. So we could just probably do a motion that says any surplus will be transferred to the capital fund.
Yeah, we could do that. Arlen?
All right.
Can you change the budget that's already been approved?
Yes. You can change it. You can rearrange it. You can add more revenues. You can add more expenses if you have more revenues,
Right.
or you can rearrange it. You just can't change the bottom line to be more negative than it already is.
Okay, so we could increase the budget next meeting if we wanted to on capital and still be okay without amending full budgets. It's in capital in the original budget,
It is in the original budget.
but do we have surplus enough?
Yes.
No.
Yes, yes.
Good. Very good.
So as I look at these two capital plans,
Mhm.
and then this other sheet, maybe I'm getting the cart on the horse here, but it looks like you've got 175,000 and 115,000 budgeted for the phone system between 2 years, which
Yes.
is 200.
Right.
whatever it is, 180.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's probably going to end up closer to 400.
That's what I'm saying. This
Done.
sheet here is, you're already
Right,
looking,
Dave.
if that's everything,
320.
328.
Oh, sure.
So do we need to do something with that, or where are we stand with this? Because I'm coming in, I'm back into this stuff. I'm just trying to get caught up to speed.
How much did we spend last? Okay, so out of that, we only spent 86. So more of that is going to come out of this year. Yeah, we might have to do some rearranging. Although the good, okay, probably not. So if we go to page, find it in here, out of the new budget, so your budget booklet, go to page, it's on page 15. So this is your official budget.
Yep.
So what you budgeted for is 710,000 in building. Now you have earmarked that for what's on this list, but you aren't locked into this list. You can change this as you go. So
But is it safe to say that all these different departments are kind of looking at this already?
yes and no. So out of the building, the 710, 345,000 of that is a match to a grant to demo the jail.
Yep.
From what I'm hearing through the grapevine, that there's probably not a good likelihood that that grant is going to come through, which,
We're not hearing anything. It hasn't been denied, whereas the other one was denied right away. So
Okay.
I would say you're at a 50-50.
50-50. And then there's also the old courthouse exterior of 250,000, which is also a match to a grant. So if either one of those doesn't come through, that frees up that money.
But they
Or
both
if it
come
doesn't-
through, then we're short.
Which means you're going to go over budget. You can't change your budget.
I got
You
it.
can go over budget and then we get dinged on the audit. Yes. I think that's so needed personally, but that's my opinion.
So I,
Still gonna fix the building at some point.
And if
so do
some,
we need to address the shortfall in the phone system, I guess is my ultimate question.
I don't think we have to do that now. I don't know, honestly, I don't know that we can address it. Because we can't make the budget go any more negative. Okay, so I guess what I'm saying is you can, in your actual spending, you're probably going to end up spending more than what you budgeted. You can't change that budget to cover that, but you do have money to do that. You're just going to end up with a
Negative.
overspending of your budget, not a negative bottom line, but an overspending of your budget, which ends up kind of within, they'll call us out in the audit for it.
Safe to say, though, that the shortfall, if there is any, will come out of the capital fund.
It will. It will. Okay. So that takes care of the capital discussion. And all right, so I also sent you a revenue, okay, so it's on legal paper, sideways, revenue and expenses compared to budget again, but this is for other funds that you guys have a lot of oversight of. The county actually has like six, I don't even know. I don't remember how many funds we have, 65, something like that. So these are funds. So I've got solid waste on here, public safety, highway, health, and animal control. So these are ones that I thought you guys needed to maybe track a little bit more. A lot of those other funds are elected officials funds from a certain fee and they get to decide how they're spent. And so I kind of chose these as other ones that you might want to track. So again, this is as of the end of last year, actual to budget. So if you come down to the bottom, it's the same setup as the one we talked about for the general fund for the most part. Come down to the bottom, like solid waste, you're 223,000 to the good this year, shows how things were broken down. This one's a little different than the general fund because I broke it down by type of expense, wages, employee benefits, contractual supplies, as opposed to department, because each one of these is only one department. So I gave you a little bit more information there. And again, down at the bottom, it breaks it down as far as how much you have in cash and how much you have in other liabilities or assets. So for solid waste, there's 1.3 million in cash left at the end of the year. Interfund debt, which is owed from the public safety fund again for the jail, is 750,000. So you have 2 million in assets in that fund, and so on and so forth. So public safety is 166,000 in the hole. Overall, they're 2.6 million in the hole because they do owe the other funds money to the point of $2.7 million. They only have 43,000 in cash and they owe 2.7 million to the general fund, solid waste fund, and capital fund. All of those actually have lent money to the jail. And then I put the highway department in there because they always seem to be real tight on how things are going out there. Right now, they ended up this year at this point, 840,000 to the good. That's because, and Jim referred to this earlier, they got $2 million from one of the wind farms to make some road repairs. So their budget went up by $2 million. I don't think they're done with all those road repairs. So a lot of that'll get done next year. So normally they kind of end up in the hole. As you can see, their budget was actually, they were budgeted to be 250,000 overspent for the year in the next column next to it. Then I put the health department on there. They usually have a balanced budget. They do get a lot of grants. They actually ended up 63,000 in the hole. That might be because they're asking for CARES grant after they're done with it. They got like 3 or 4 CARES grants, maybe 5. I can't remember how many they got. And then there's animal control. I just thought, again, you know, you might want to track that. This is actually 2 funds. They have their pet population fund, plus they have their animal control fund. These are added together on here. So that'll give you an idea of what's happening with those. So that's kind of where they ended up. They're 50,000 to the good for the year. Yeah, so that's kind of that new report there. And if there's any other funds that you want to see more on, or you don't want to see these, just let me know. I can easily add, subtract, whatever.
I just forget what money public safety brings in. It's not general funds.
No, public. So the public safety fund, the specifically public safety fund, is that sales tax increase that that was approved to build the jail. So that's what's coming in here that can only be spent for public safety.
Gotcha.
So primarily the only thing that it'll pay for now is paying back there's 2 bonds out there. We got to pay for that. And we've got some money to pay for their utilities. Yep. And we run out of money after that until we get some of the bonds paid off.
Right.
And I think, and I'm, correct me if I'm wrong, Paul, with the sales tax, we're receiving the appropriate or what we anticipate. But on certain things that aren't being bought isn't going to our public safety tax.
Right.
So we're down about, I believe, 68 or 70 grand, something
about
like that.
60,000.
So we're actually lower than what we had anticipated because, in other words, they're not spending on the items that were allowed under, the public safety tax.
Right.
So our sales tax is good. The public safety is down to 68 or 70,000.
Yep. And so that is another beautiful segue into the last thing I have to share with you today.
I just thought of it.
Good job. I'm impressed. So the last thing I haven't talked to is it's like 3 pages. I don't know if I actually stapled them together, but the first, it's got a bunch of boxes on it, kind of like little tables in there. So the first thing says property. So this is last year's, what I'm going to call major revenue sources. And it's actually got a 5-year history on here. And I've got FY 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. So it gives you some idea of what was collected in prior years, kind of by month. So you get a little bit of a comparison to prior years. And down at the bottom of each box is the budget for the current year. So if you look at the property taxes at the top, we actually collected 3.5 million this year this is in the general fund. And we had a budget of 3.4 million. So we were ahead of the game in property taxes in the general fund. We do collect property taxes in other funds also. This happens to be the general fund. And I did the same thing for sales tax.
Paul,
Yes, sir.
is there any way to go back and look at in the property tax collection side, growth or new builds versus just increase in existing properties?
Probably, yes, I probably
I'm
could.
curious at some point in time to
Yes.
see
Yes,
how much growth we're getting versus just an increase in property tax.
I believe, well, I think so.
Paula, that should be Wendy. Wendy should have that information because she has to track it for the PTEL calculation.
She does. So that's what I was thinking. If I got that amount, I could probably back into some of this.
Sure.
So
not-
I'd
I
have to,
In your spare time.
in my spare time. It's gonna be a couple months from now. We gotta get through the rest of
Well,
this conversion.
I'd be curious to see if that.
Yeah. No, I get where you're coming from. That it would be good information. And I think Wendy will be a good source to help me calculate that. So anyway, so I have a box for sales tax again, and then state income tax. And then almost the last thing is the public safety sales tax that Jim we were just talking about. So obviously, there's only a couple years worth of history because it was only approved by referendum a few years ago. So that does show that we were supposed to collect 1.15, we collected 1.09. That's about on the third page of these 3 pages. So we're down about 60. Now, with a conversation we had with Bobby yesterday, because I haven't been following this, but a couple of years ago, there was a ruling, and they call it the Wayfair decision, which is based on the Wayfair online sales company that I think is out of one of the Dakotas, South Dakota. So anyway, prior to that, a lot of online sales were not taxed. So now they're taxed. Online sales, if you buy anything online, there's going to be a sales tax calculated on there. That is flowing through the state, which is one of the reasons why we're high this year because it's really started to flow in this year. So we're high in the sales tax. We actually came out almost 200,000 higher than what we'd budgeted in sales tax. And that is because of the Wayfair. Now that Wayfair ruling is only starting to kick in for the additional local taxes that we've put in place, which the public safety tax is a local sales tax that's put apart, whereas I think the state is 6.25, 6.5, something like that. So the state was put in on the online sales first. That's been coming in. From what Bobby tells me from his intel, that will be coming in on the local stuff this next year. So we should see a little bit more money coming in from online sales into the public safety fund going forward. So that should help maybe put us to rights there a little bit, because we were just a little, not a huge amount under, but a little bit under this year.
That will only apply to the,
Yes. Yep. So, and that's it. That's all I had, unless you guys have some more questions, or if you're Marilyn's got a question?
Just curious, looking at the sales tax, what was the anomaly in fiscal year 16?
Because it was higher?
Yeah, the December collections, 40,000, that was received in December. It was actually the October collections. And, then 45, what, those just stick out as.
I cannot tell you. I don't know. I'd have to dig back into that.
I don't know if it's worth your time and effort, but it just sticks out at me.
I'm trying to think. I think that was more. There used to be a longer delay from the state. So all of this gets flowed through the state, right? It all gets paid to the state. Yeah. The state kicks it back to us at some point. And usually, as you can tell, I've got December collections were actually received.
Right, in October.
Or I should say the October collections were received 2 months later.
So it's the October and November collections that were higher for some reason.
And there was a longer delay at one time than 2 months, or for a while there when the state was really struggling with their budget, they got behind. So 17.
So those may be some multiple,
Right, it might have been some prior years that finally showed up in 16.
okay,
But I'd
that's
have
fine.
I'd have to dig back and research that to verify.
It just stuck out at me looking at those two.
Yeah, and off the top of my head, I don't know.
I don't think it's worth your time and effort to go back that far.
Okay,
Paula, just comment, really appreciate the landfill host fees and the tonnage. That's been a report that we've been wanting. In fact, we talked about those numbers and how we had an increase in tonnage and income coming from the host fees. And so appreciate having that information in the report.
sure. Yeah, thanks, Jim. That is the last box in that free page is the history of the landfill. In the last couple of years, I did put the tons on there because it is, yeah. And that did go up this year. They had more tonnage this year than they've had in the last couple of years. So we're 127 to the good there. Whereas the last couple of years, we were collecting more like 220. So, yep, they're using us again for whatever reason, using that landfill.
Paul, thanks for putting all that together.
Yep.
Makes it a lot simpler and appreciate it very much.
Yep, no problem. All right.
These are tremendous, by the way. They really, I think, paint a very, very clear picture. They're great. Thank you.
Well, I put it together really for me because I wanted to know. So totally self-serving.
Any questions for Paula? My word, it's tremendous. I agree with Jim Sheeline, the tonnage on the host fees. That's great to have that. Okay. I guess I stepped over the visitors that are here. Wondered if they had anything to contribute. Charlie, Amy, anything from you guys? I didn't ask. You okay? Okay. Thanks, Charlie. Thanks. Mike Copine was here, right?
I think he's in the back room.
Is he okay? Marilyn, anything that you
No.
had? Okay.
Thank you.
Good. All right. Who? Oh, Dave. Yeah, Dave's going to be here down under old business here pretty quick. We don't have a quarterly report yet, so we'll move on to the insurance committee report. Tom, do you have any insight on that?
We did not have a meeting here in the last couple months just because of changing personnel and the way things are going. And we also changed our insurance person.
Okay.
So since Lori left, now Nancy Peterson is our insurance contact. So
Okay.
I was in touch yesterday with the office, insurance office, and they're gonna have the same person reporting to us when we do have a meeting.
Okay. All right. Good. Yeah, it'll take a while to get on a plane there.
Buddy,
Yeah. Understand. Liram, anything from over that way for Gredco?
No, sir, not this time.
Thank you. Don't have any monthly resolutions. Under old business, Dave Bowers has graciously agreed to come and give us an update on, I think everybody's got the sheet on what projects we got going and expenditures and stuff like that, so we can get a good, a good idea of what we got going on and know, where the dollars are going. So, Dave?
Yes, thank you. As to the items on the agenda here, the food pantry fire alarm system has been purchased and that'll be installed. The maintenance people have been very stretched with all the projects that are going on this summer, fall. So this has been a lower priority item and we'll get that in as soon as we have resources. The shovel-ready grant application we talked about, it has not been approved or denied. And at this point, I don't know that we have an inclination of which way that will go unless someone knows something I don't. I know the initial EOC grant application was denied or was denied right away. So I would say because it hasn't been, that still gives us some hope.
State budget is really tight. So there's not a clean paper today.
Arlen, please use your microphone.
Use microphone.
I was just saying the article in the paper today about how tight the state budget is.
Related to, let's go back to the land VoIP separately. Sneeze guard installations have been completed in Kathy's area, the clerk's area, in the assessor's office, and lastly, we're working on the treasurer's office, and lastly, the countertops have been put in, and sneeze guards, we're working with Dixon Glass to complete those. The land VoIP system, I just updated this morning for your benefit. The far right column really is the numbers, and we had originally planned on 204,000 or 225,735 in 2020 and 120,099 in 2021. The good news overall is our project, we're getting more done than we originally expected because we're doing Wi-Fi in both buildings. But some of these monies were not spent in 2020. Just tough to get everything with COVID going on. Everybody being stretched, it's been hard to get the cash flow in the years that we needed. But anyhow, the far right column on 2020, the old courthouse work has been completed. The 58,432 was paid. And then if you skip down to number 4, the new court's fiber cables from each of the floors, that has been completed for 27,638. The rest of those expenses will flow into 2021. 2021 is shown. Overall, we're getting more work and spending a little less than originally anticipated. The one thing that did change, it made sense to lease the fiber from Syndio rather than spend $50,000 to install our own. And that's $250 a month. So that is an ongoing expense, and there's a 5-year guarantee of the price for that for right now. So that's the phone system. If there's any questions. Probably the other big one is, we talked a little about in the tuck pointing for this building or the exterior of this building. Representative Demmer said that he has earmarked $250,000 for us. And my understanding is they want us to spend that early next year or this coming year, 2021. And that's why we budgeted the other half of that for the county. I'm right now working with Greg Saunders to put together a bid spec and get that out and bid and awarded based on that. Now we'll make sure that we have the grant before we would award, of course, but we can go out for bid. We'll be using an engineering firm to put together the bid spec. I think this is a significant amount of money, and I would like to have a spec for that work. So we'll keep you updated on that.
What's the name of that? Oh, go ahead, Jim.
No, sorry, Jim. I just had a question for David on that. We've got some damage over there in the elections department. When they do the tuck pointing, are they going to take a look for any interior water damage?
We did have a bid. We got a budgetary bid last year for repairing the plaster and that type of thing, but I would say right now that will probably have to flow after this work and after this budget, unless we end up with some extra.
Sure.
But yes, that is recognized. We recognize we need to take care of the outside first, and then we would go after the inside. But that is definitely an area we would like to address. And I don't off the top of my head have that number, but it was substantial to tear out that plaster and replaster it. There was some repairs done on that wall for some of the offices in the north east corner, and that it looks good right now. We did that for the office. We renovated those 2 offices for GIS, so we did do a little bit of work there.
Thank you.
Yeah. Um,
I don't know if this is a question for Dave or not, but I know approximately 2 to 3 years ago when I was on the finance committee prior, one of the items that was brought to us was spending a bunch of money for computer backup system. I guess my question is with this modernization of spending this money for the phone and network system, have we addressed our concerns on backups for the county? And is this taken into consideration that, or where we stand with that?
I would just say that this expenditure does not address that at all. I can't comment on what's been done from the IT side, and maybe Zach would have something there.
I guess
we looked at sharing.
In conjunction with that, does this give us that ability, I guess, if we're spending this kind of money? I mean, if we just push the problem down the road, or is this going to help us in that problem?
And at one time, Mike McBride had talked about getting that elephant or whatever it is. And I think he had talked with the circuit clerk on sharing some of the money, the expenses there, but I'm not up to date on where that's at and what's been done. If anybody does, no, Marilyn, do you have any? No.
I think Zach's got a comment.
Zach would be the best one to comment.
Oh, Zach, there you go. I forgot. You're kind of hard to forget, but anyway, go ahead, Zach.
I'm not sure exactly which backup device you're referring to, but all of the servers here and at the other building and out at the LEC have some form of backup now. The CC clerk's office has a pretty robust one that's different from the others. I don't know if you're referring to that or if you're referring to future backup devices.
He was concerned about the backup being on site in case there was something happened to that building. He was looking for all
Is this
storage.
This is for cloud backup?
Everything.
As far as I know, that has not been implemented.
And then I guess my question was, does this money being spent on the upgrade of the phone system allow us to, in the future, to get to that point?
I can't answer that question.
One thing I would say, Rick, on that is we're taking, I mean, this building, the wiring was not even current. So it's more than just a phone upgrade, it's a LAN upgrade.
No, I understand. I just was hoping.
Yep, I'm trying to answer what you asked. The communications between the buildings were wireless. Now they'll be wired, and our connection speed, our bandwidth should be significantly improved, which would be required for a cloud backup. So I think the answer to your question is what we're doing here does assist that in the future if we were to go with a cloud backup, because you have to have a good highway to do it.
Questions, is there any way to make sure when we're looking at that it would meet,
I don't think there's any question that you can do backups on slow systems. It's just a matter of how long it takes. So, I mean, you can do testing of speeds once you're up and running. Yes.
Yeah, we'll look.
I think part of the issue is getting from here to a remote location.
Yep. And if you have a connection to the World Wide Web, you're able to back up to the cloud.
We can,
but it would be how quickly we could do it. And I think with the upgrades we're talking about, you would see that improve from where we're at right now as we speak.
Yes,
like the old phone modem versus DSL connection type of thing.
Jim, can I jump in real quick?
Yeah, Zach.
Typically, you'd have for cloud backup, you'd have a device that goes along with that, so it's on site and then it dumps every night. So I don't know what brands he's looked at.
And all I remember is that he wanted something offsite in case something happened.
Yeah, but you pay for it.
Storage,
The cost for those things are substantial.
And it was.
So.
It was a lot of money. And it wasn't so much just the server, it was to me, if one might remember, it was
really
the annual
cloud
annual
service
fee.
and storage, maintenance fees, et cetera, et cetera.
I'm thinking of like 35 to 50,000. I think that's.
I was saying it was like
about
150.
I don't know. I don't know why 35 or 50, but I believe
At the time, I mean, I go by memories.
I believe Mike's gone till is he gone till January, Zach? Okay, but when, we can surely check with him, Rick, we'll,
I was just curious.
yeah, well, that's a good point. We don't want to throw all this into both buildings and at some point lose everything. You know,
One thing that has changed because of the design we're using is there's going to be a fiber connection between this building and New Courts and also 911. So you could potentially own the backup and put our backup in 911 and 911's backup in this building and accomplish what you want without spending big bucks on a cloud backup.
Research I did at the time, part of that was the fiber optics and being able to get it.
Yep. So we have the backbone now that we didn't have between the buildings and also to 911. Syndio being the supplier, they're interested in providing us service between the buildings, which we have planned. So the only other thing I had was carpeting. We did accomplish some carpeting in this year, and we'll be doing some more here yet this month. And we'll keep you updated on that. That's all I had unless there's questions.
Any questions for Dave? Appreciate it, Dave. Thanks for the update. We get a good view here of what's going on with the new equipment in both buildings. That's great. Thank you. Next is the COVID effects on county finances. Paula, did you touch it or? Yeah, if you want to. And then while you're there, that maybe touch on that C-PACE that we've been.
Thank you. 23. That's all right. I'm just going to turn it off. I got Doug. So, all right. So as far as the COVID effects, honestly, when we looked at those revenues, I don't know that we had a whole lot of effects at this point in time. I mean, our sales tax and everything, because of the Wayfair decision, really held their level and are even good. I know. I'm talking with my hands because the words are not coming out anyway. So I'm of Italian descent. Deal with it, okay? There is 450,000 or 550,000 or so of CARES grant money that's coming in. So we have that separated out into a grant in the system. And as far as I know, everything is going to, for the most part, be covered. I think the state is reallocating some of the money that wasn't drawn down by municipalities.
Right.
Didn't use it. So a lot of the
lose it. Yeah.
Things that have been purchased with the COVID money, I think should probably be reimbursed. So I don't know that we really have a lot of concerns as far as the COVID for us, which we are very lucky, obviously, because that's not true for everybody.
We got that 75,000 earlier, a couple months back from.
Yes, from Demmer.
Demmer.
That was put into the EOC across the street.
Right, into the new construction. Right?
Yep.
So do we know if we were successful in getting other counties?
Arlen, use your mic.
Hey, Mom,
I can't hear otherwise.
were we successful? Because I know we were requesting money from other counties that didn't use theirs.
I think the state is just starting that process, so we don't know yet. But yeah, so it's not far enough along the state level. So then going into the next subject on there is, what do they call it again? I don't have
The C-PACE resolution, know a little bit about. I'm not real well versed on it.
And Charlie, correct me if I make a mistake here, but so all right, Andy Shaw, this is an economic development tool. Andy Shaw of Black Hawk Hills came several months ago now. And the gist of it is that a company, and they can only use this for green technology. So like a geothermal wells or solar panels or something on their building, so for green energy. They can Okay, so it's not just. green
It's
technology.
contagious. His hands up.
Good, Charlie, roll, yeah. Arm gestures. Sign language. I should learn sign language. That'd probably be good. That'd probably be good. Anyway, so yeah, so for energy efficiencies, basically they would take out a loan. There would be a special assessment put on the property to repay the loan, and we would facilitate that collection of the special assessment, which would be done during the tax collection process, and pay back the loan.
It would be the
Intermediary.
administrator or
Yes.
interim person for
Right.
a pass-through, so to speak. Okay.
Yes, for the most part. I know that we were going to look at it a little bit closer. I don't think, from what I read and the conversations, the little bit that Charlie and I have talked, I'm not sure that we would have any liability. The loan actually goes with the property. So if that company sells their property, the next company is going to be on the hook for it. I don't know if they can get out of it. I don't know if it would have any other tax implications as far as if they lose the property. You know, I'm not positive on any of that. It's kind of a way to do a little bit of off balance sheet financing.
Yeah. I guess maybe you are, Charlie. Of what benefit is it going to be to us as a county if we,
None.
I just have to.
We're helping.
Got to look at that too, I guess.
I mean, the county itself, none. The idea is that it's an economic development generator. So I don't know if it would bring anybody new into the community,
I see.
but it would
Okay.
help some of the businesses. Maybe they would have more opportunity to grow.
Yep.
That would be the benefit.
A benefit for them.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right.
We'd be an incentive on our end, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Or
For them.
maybe more jobs for
Yeah.
community members or something to that effect.
There's a nominal fee you get with it, but it's like $200 or something.
Okay.
Yeah, and I mean, that I think is just intended to offset the hassle that the county would have in facilitating this loan. So,
Well, guys, I don't know. You want me to get with Andy Shaw, get some more detail? I mean, this has been explained here exactly, you know, what it is.
Andy had reached out to Paul and I and said that he wanted us to hold off on it.
next month, yeah,
Correct.
they had a conflict
Okay.
this month or so.
All right, good enough then. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, we can.
We had asked you guys to meet with Andy, I believe, a meeting.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, Tom, that's good. Okay.
Concerns the committee had was, and I, correct me if I'm wrong, Paul, but one of the concerns we had was, is the county on the hook for any of this money?
Good point. Yeah.
If we're a pass-through, that's one thing. But if we're on the hook for it,
And that's what we were trying to figure out with Andy, and we just haven't had a
to wait,
Okay.
I'd like to table it again,
Yeah,
get the response back you guys were trying to
Yeah, there was
never.
discussion about putting a committee together with you guys, because you guys are really the decision makers on it, but having a couple of you guys and us and meeting with them and just trying to kind of get to the bottom of it.
But if he's asking you to hold off, let's, if we go on your lead of whatever, if you need some of us, let Jim know or whatever. And
Sure.
But I'd like to table it rather
okay,
than.
motion by Kitson to table this. Tom Kitson,
Sheline seconds.
Sheline second. Roll call vote. McLean,
Yes.
Barster,
Yes.
Humphrey,
Yes.
Kitson,
Yes.
Mimini. You there, Lerm? Jim Sheline?
Yes.
And I'll say yes. So we'll look at this in the future, I guess. Next item, litigation invoices update.
we were
Charlie,
supposed to,
this is on the CIRMA thing that's
yeah.
we're
Yep.
dealing with.
Yep. So we were supposed to get a breakdown of what CIRMA would cover. I haven't seen it yet. I don't know if, Marilyn, if you got anything from them.
I haven't had any contact on it since we had that conference call.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't seen anything from CIRMA yet. They said that they would give us a breakdown of what absolutely they were going to cover, and then we would kind of debate or talk about the other stuff afterwards.
I thought, that you possibly had a follow-up call. If you have it, I will call Kelly this afternoon.
Okay, great. Yeah, I just, I wasn't sure where we're at. And this is this a reimbursement from them to us, Charlie, or is it them paying their fair share and us paying our fair share?
This would be them paying what they believe they would be covering.
Okay,
It's not reimbursing us.
okay, all right, got it, okay. Questions for Charlie on that, guys? Okay. Under new business, and there's some items on there. These are going to be just for discussion only. Copier for the new zoning office is on the top of the list there. There's an estimate on the desk. Apparent, and I'm not sure you guys had visited this during budget hearings, Tom and Jim, but you never really got a commitment either way on it. Is that correct?
It seems to me we talked about it. Jim, you remember that?
Well, I'm trying to, no, I'm not, I'm foggy on this.
Okay. We've got an estimate, and I think the proposal we got was only good till yesterday anyway, so that's out. So I think what and I'll get your guys' feelings on it. We'll kind of maybe revisit this. They have been functioning with what they have at the bigger one in there. We can maybe revisit this during budget hearings and then because there's no money for it at this point that I could see.
Jim, what kind of, I mean, I know your estimate is expired, but what kind of proposal did they have?
This is from
SBS.
SBM. Doug, there it is, Marilyn. Well, that's what I'd like to maybe look at if you want to.
Hey, Jim,
Yes.
Liram here. I have a goofy question. Speaking of the copiers, I have 3 heavy-duty copiers that I bought from a school closure. I'm willing to just give them away. I bought them for a little bit of nothing, but I don't know how that pans out, if it's conflicty or because I'm a board member. I'm willing to give them away.
Okay.
Are they willing to take a look at them? And they work. I tested all of them. They do work. They do function.
Dave Bowers. Did you just hear what Lerm said?
He's left, I believe.
Would you be able to follow up on that? Okay, yeah, okay.
I have 3 of them. I'm willing to donate them to the county or whoever needs them in the offices.
I couldn't hear you, Dave. I'm sorry. Is it color, Liram?
Yes, they are. Yes.
Okay, yeah. Maybe.
And I believe they're also wireless too.
Okay, maybe you guys can hook up and then take a look at them, and we can get one over here. Great. Thank you, Liram.
Oh yeah, no problem. I'll talk to Dave.
Okay, great.
All right.
Next is on the. Oh yes, I'm sorry, Arlen.
Is it possible? I know most everybody now is accessing printers from their computers. And is it possible if we, after the research, if we do a bunch of stuff, we can get a super printer that other people, except for doing all this wireless stuff too, because it seems like you can gain a tremendous amount of efficiency.
I'm not an IT guy. I don't know. I see what you mean. Yeah. There's a big one in there now that's being used. That would have to be, probably wired down to where the
Almost
office
stuff is everybody at their desk, so if you're running a whole bunch of copies like we ran for this meeting.
Let's see what this one of Liram has, if it has to have a little work done on it, it's better than $6,000.
This is a question, or if you can go from your desk and run 40 copies and pick it up 2
Yeah,
hours later, is an efficient, good copier will save time and money.
Yeah. And if that doesn't, happen to work out, we can, maybe they can deal with it for the year, and then next year's budget, we can throw it in there and get it. Anything else on that, on the copiers? Okay. Next, item B is a sickage billing. And this is for discussion. There are HR people. I don't know if you know that, Rick, sickage. Doug, you knew that, sickage. So there's been a lot of work done over at the health department. And the reason I want to discuss this is there are considerably high amounts that have been turned in for the work that they've been doing at the health department. Now, what I like to do is have them share in the cost where it's coming out of our general fund right now. And I'd like to have them share in the cost with it and with us on the billing. And I don't know, Becky, did Jenny ever give you a breakdown for departments on? Oh, no, that's fine. So in other words, we would pay the part we're dealing with, they're on their own levy. So that's what the idea is. And I would notify that before, we're not just going to say, hey, you're going to start having to pay for your part of it. I would send it to the board and Kathy to let them know what the intentions are. So what's your guys' feelings on that? Rick? Or go ahead. I'm sorry, Tom.
We do the same thing with lots. We've done this before. They are a standalone business operating off of that levy. I think it's only fair they pay their share of it.
Okay.
Kind of broken down, it's easy to designate what's there.
Yes, and it was, as far as, because Becky said, sometimes on their billing, they show 3 departments in one day, but it's just, like I was talking to you about, Ray, it's just so many hours at so much per hour. And, but by breaking it down, then we would have a finite way that we could let them know, or, take it out of their budget. So, and that'll take a little heat off our general fund too.
Jim, just a question. How much were we talking about that the health department was using up? And I totally support that they need to be paying their freight as well. So how much were we talking about?
The only figure, Jim, and I don't have I didn't get it from Becky, but I believe the total October bill was $6,700, and the month before that, up to the point of not having November's bill, I do know we're right up around 32,000 that we spent with sickage for the year.
For the
but
year.
I do not have at this point. I'll get it from Becky. She said she's got it, or for the health department. Okay, so there's a dollar amount there. Yeah.
Jim?
Yes, Rick.
So is their contract or whatever we've got established with them, are they on a as needed basis, or is there a flat monthly fee they bill us for just in general terms, or?
Well, I haven't seen the contract in it.
Okay.
Is there been one signed?
There was
Maryland?
a contract for the expired fiscal year, and it's my understanding that before the elections of, Bob becoming board chair, John had a proposal from Sickage for the year of 21 that I believe was between a high end of 23,000. I think it was less than 24. And that would cover a fixed number of hours. And the hourly rate on that number of hours was less than what we have been paying this year. It was kind of a trial thing this year.
Yeah, because
it looked real good to me, the contract that John had and we had talked about, and then we had a change in administration. So
I haven't seen, I'll have to look at that, but the previous contract for 2020, I've read that a number of times, and there wasn't really a dollar amount set in that contract. So it actually, bottom line, it was an open-end contract, and
I
that's,
think in that contract, it just had a hourly rate.
that's all it said. Yeah.
Yes.
It was
And I
just,
think this one has a certain number of hours at somewhere between 23 and 24,000. And after that, and that hour, if you divide it out, that hourly rate is less than what we're paying now. But
okay.
that hourly rate would continue if we went over that number of hours. So it sounded like a good deal.
Okay, I'll have to.
Check, I'm sure it's in the office there
I'll have to
somewhere.
get a copy of that contract then, I guess. We'll go. from
So I guess the question would be then, that money was probably budgeted somewhere. And if
For
we're at-
2020, Rick?
Yeah, for whatever we're talking about, because I'm trying to get
Oh,
caught up here, so.
I
I guess.
thought it
what-
was 24,000, but obviously at this point, we're
And if
way
that's,
over that.
and if that's already been spent, then most definitely, then I would agree, this money definitely needs to come out of whatever department is using the over and above.
Okay, all right.
That's my feeling on it.
All right, I'll contact the board, the health board, and also Kathy Ferguson, and we'll move it along then, because then once that's been made, Paula, you can just take care on the payment from them. Okay. Yeah. Pardon? Like I said, this is just for this. We're just discussing, and I can't really vote on anything because I want them to be notified. Okay. Sexual harassment training, and briefly, I think the Administrative Services Committee is dealing with this in front. I talked briefly with Chris Norberg, and we originally had a form that I think everybody got. It was like, it was from the state of Illinois, and you read through it, and there was a certificate at the end. You signed it. Well, that wasn't good enough. So we have to have this sexual harassment training done, and I do not believe that county board members have to have it. But Sikich is willing for $30 an employee to do this and get us certified, and they aren't even giving us a break on it because of the COVID. It has to be done by December 31st.
Oh, jeez.
This month. And they won't, isn't that something? But so anyway, Chris is proceeding with that, and we're gonna have to get that done for our employees. So it's, you do the math, there's about 140 employees, so you're looking at $3 to $5 grand, and then that's not just for a year, that's for the end of this year, and then we got to do it again next year.
Is this state implemented?
Yes,
What happens if we don't get it done before the 31st?
I don't know that.
I mean, it's kind of a tight window.
They probably won't shut it.
Well, he's working on it right now. And being as we have I guess a contract with Sikich, so that's part of, he's gonna go ahead and, they're gonna start their end of it, I guess. Do you know any more about it, Becky, or not? I'm pretty much, that's what we talked about with Chris. That one's not on.
Last month, City Truck and Road announced that she found out through the meeting that
PDF, basically.
It was a kind of a template that businesses were supposed to use. So it wasn't valid, but it was through the state, so.
I guess the other question, I mean, a lot of times this stuff just gets convoluted and mixed up, but is there such a thing that the department heads could go through the training and then funnel that down to their employees? Like in a monthly staff meeting or whatever they do, how they.
I'm not sure, I'd have to talk to Chris, Rick, but I believe there is some amount of training that could be done. Yeah.
A lot of that stuff.
And then rather, you know, but at this point, we're not, because of the goofy time element, Chris is going to be, he's working on it this week, I believe. I'm not sure where he's at with it, but I know, department heads, did you get a email from Chris, Amy? Was that through Sickich?
No, that was, I think what I sent Charlie was the one we're talking about, which they're not gonna recognize.
It's invalid.
Because it was just a certificate at the end, right?
Okay, so the department heads, maybe today, what's Thursday? Maybe today you'll have notification on it, on what he's got set up with Sickich. I'm not sure. But, so that's the sexual harassment thing that we got rolling. Again.
Well, question, Jim, on,
Yes, Jim.
and this is for Paula, in this year's approved budget, under expenses on county board, we've got a line item that's consultants that we budgeted $30,000 for. I'm assuming that's Sickich. I just want to verify that because Rick also had the question in regards where that money's coming from.
Correct.
So that, gee, good answer. and the significance of this is if we've got a $5,000 or potentially $10,000 expense, that blows a big hole in that line item.
It does, correct. That's right. State of Illinois. Arlen.
Does this have to be,
Oh, sorry, Arlen, go ahead.
does this have to be face to face? Because how the hell are you going to do this on COVID?
I don't know yet.
What would happen if we tabled this item till next month?
That's why I was asking. I mean, a lot of this stuff is just,
This is
they
just-
recommend you do it or highly suggest you do
Yeah,
it versus
just-
actual.
Just discussion purposes, really.
There were some emails came out back in like September
Yeah.
saying that every county employee had to have it. So I was kind of thinking, oh, does that mean us? And what are we gonna
So
do
did I.
as board members? And,
I took it. Yeah, I mean, I
Yeah.
did the
Well, I did the-
online course.
Yeah, I did too.
Brought it up to Becky.
And he did, he did find out that board members don't have to do it. But like say an elected official, which would be Bob, he would have to as chairman, and Paula, yeah, all of them. So anyway, that's just,
Paula, Jim, if I could, Paula, did you guys do anything in your office? You did the one that they don't approve of now? Sorry, I didn't mean to run you over here, but.
Thank you. Yes, we went through it, but it was, honestly, I was a little surprised because all we had to do was read it. And 10 years ago, when I was at the college, we had to do the same thing, but it was an online thing, and then you had to take a quiz at the end, and I was like, wow, this is way too easy.
Yeah.
So I'm not surprised that they threw it out.
But who did it come from? Was it, I mean, is
Oh,
it,
I don't remember. I just know it was like a PowerPoint, and we had to read it. So, I had my staff read it, I read it.
I
did the same thing.
I guess I'm concerned that, they gave us this.
I did.
Yeah, I guess
and
I
now
don't
they're
know
saying
if it
it's not
came from,
acceptable and
See-
we're down to the wire, but.
right, yeah.
The thing that I think everybody went through was put out by some department at the state of Illinois. But if you read it carefully, it said it was a template. And so I think they expected us to expand on, somebody to expand on that. I don't know why they had the certificate at the end, because that made everybody believe that they had completed it.
Exactly. Yep. So we're moving along. That just an update. So moving on. Are you on here, John Symington?
Yeah, I was able to sneak on, Jim. Thanks.
I didn't hear you sneaking, but at least you're
Yes.
here.
Can you hear me now?
Can you give me an update on that Logan County that used jail equipment real quick?
Yeah, we had a list of equipment that Logan County wanted to take out of our old jail. They're in a worse predicament than we were a couple of years ago. So they gave me a list of equipment, some benches, fans, refrigerator, and possibly a couple of the toilets that they can use in their old dilapidated facility. And I was hoping that we could offer that to them. They're going to come and get it, transport it, no expense to the county.
Okay, great. Also too, John's got some expenses for that. We're going to be serving, the company's going to be serving meals out there, and we need some additional equipment. So we've spent $800 so far, but for future, it's $8,909. And I had talked with Paula, John, and we're thinking about, there was 130,000 in budgeted for meals and food, and pulling it out of there. And then the reason I say that is I don't think we want to, I know we don't want to get into, our contingency fund two weeks into the budget. So if we could use, out of that 130 that you had in for the food and meals, and then if we do run into a problem, down the road, then we could plug back in and fill that up with the contingencies. Would that work?
Possibly. The 130 you're speaking of was the contractual services for Consolidated Correctional Food Service. That's what's going to cost us for a year.
It's going to be right at 130.
Yeah, that was the contract we signed with them. And then the $9,000 we talked about last month at finance, that's for the extra kitchen equipment we did not purchase when we built the facility. And so we talked about taking out a public safety, but after hearing Paula talk about the public safety fund today, apparently we need to research another option for that equipment.
Well, I had talked with her yesterday on that, and that's what we were kind of looking at, because we're down at the 68,000, but she's right here, Paula.
Yeah, I think that we could probably charge it to that food and meals line item for now, and then towards the end of the year we can reassess which line items are over and under, just like we did this last year, John, and then we can get it fixed towards the end of the year when we have to allocate out the contingency fund.
Gotcha.
So it'll get covered one way or the other, probably.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, John. Tom?
John, when we did budget hearings and we talked about this 130,000, you at that time mentioned having to buy some equipment. Is this additional equipment, or is this the equipment you talked about at that time?
This is the equipment that I talked about at that time.
All right, and then one other question. With this Logan County stuff, are they going to remove it, or do we have any labor involved at all?
No, they're going to remove everything. They got their own maintenance crew. They actually came up about 2 weeks ago to take a look at some of the items, and they're going to come back up once we give them the formal approval.
And we're donating it to them as good guys. Is that our plan?
I'd love to. If you saw their facility, you'd like to too.
Okay, I just asking, if there was any value in this I don't mind giving it to them. I just wonder if there's any value in the future if we were going to be doing something with it.
Most of it, I think, was going to be destroyed when we demolish it.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Yes, thank you.
Nothing for executive session, Charlie? No.
None that I'm aware.
Okay. Motion to adjourn. Doug Farster, seconded by Arlen McLean. Roll call. Rick? Yes. Tom?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Doug?
Yes.
Lyram? He left. Jim?
He's muted.
Yes.
Okay. Meeting adjourned.
We hanging on to this, or are we doing another meeting for executive?
Separate.
Okay. All right.